Check, check. Check two.
Yeah, but if you're on it for an hour, it's not. I know, right, yeah, right, exactly.
Vegas, please mute.
Stephen Squad. Stephen Squad. He's always up there. You're over under. Oh, he's not coming?
He may. He's not. Just
Yeah. Okay. Do we have that on the agenda? Oh, yeah, we do. All right. Let's call to order the Nevada Department of Transportation Board meeting for February 13th at 9:30 a.m. We'll call the roll.
Good morning, Governor Joe Lombardo.
Here.
Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony.
Here.
Controller Andy Matthews.
Here.
Member Virginia Valentine.
Here.
Member Stephen Esquaga.
Here.
Member Justin Kell. And Member Gary Correa.
Here.
Governor, you have a form.
All right. Moving on to agenda item number 2, public comment. Do we have any public comment to the north?
No, sir, Governor.
Any here?
No, sir.
Any written or on the internet?
Not at this time.
Okay. We'll move past public comment and we'll move to agenda item number 3, receive the director's report. Tracy.
Actually, sir, item number 3 is.
Oh, hold on. I'm off the wrong agenda. Sorry. Consideration for annual appointment of a vice chair to the Transportation Board of Directors. And who's making the motion?
Governor, I'd like to make a motion that Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony be appointed the vice chair.
We don't need a second confirmed, right?
Second.
Who made the second?
Steve Esquagas did, I think.
Steve, did you make a second?
Yes, Governor.
If you guys could just speak up because we're having trouble hearing that on our end. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Congratulations, Stavros. You want to make a speech?
Happy to be here.
All right.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 4, receive the director's report.
Well, good morning, Governor and board members. So we're going to jump right in. This month is Nevada Moves Month. Basically, what we work with our Safe Routes to School program and with schools around the state, educating pedestrians and motorcycles about pedestrian safety. A couple of big things to highlight is put the phones down and don't wear headphones. That's a really big deal out there. And never pass a car that is stopped at a crosswalk. And when passing a bicycle, please allow that 3 feet of clearance as required by state law. Then we're going to move on and do a couple of project updates. On the Tropicana interchange, we're well into phase 2 of construction. The Tropicana event, which included full closure of I-15 and Tropicana Avenue, are behind us. And we're beginning to work on the north half of the Tropicana Avenue Bridge. Upcoming work includes the lane shifts on I-15 as crews start to build a new half interchange on the south side of Harmon. And for now, the Tropicana Avenue is a diverging diamond interchange configuration. I want to point out that we have really worked on modifying that as with the traffic control, as there has been some confusion. It's doing much better now, but we continue to monitor it just with the type of configuration there. We have enclosed the Tropicana overnight on 3 occasions, and that is literally to better take control of the traffic control. Phase 3 will begin in the fall with another full closure of Tropicana and I-15 to demolish the south side of the bridge, and then we continue ongoing area coordination with MGM, other stakeholders surrounding the areas, also Allegiant Stadium. On the Summerlin
When's the
project,
day on phase 3? You say it's in the fall?
just the fall of this year. So fall of 2023, I don't know the exact date, but I can get that. Well, I get the range. We're still in the talking with the stakeholders on different aspects.
Oh, okay.
On Summerlin Parkway, we have a pair of projects in Summerlin Parkway in West Las Vegas that started last February. And this was primarily to make improvements to safety, mobility, and aesthetics along the corridor between Buffalo Drive and the 215. We're resurfacing and repairing the roadway. There are curb ramp upgrades, replacement of overhead signs, new LED lighting, overhead sign structures, and improved barrier rails. This work should be completed in August. And then we'll have intermittent lane restrictions with you'll see coming out on a regular basis on the eastbound Summerlin Parkway to Town Center until early April. On SR 169 project in Moapa Valley, the project limits are from Canal Avenue to Interstate 15. What we're doing is truck climbing lane from Waterline Road going a mile north on SR 169. There's buffered bike lanes on both sides of the roadway, and that's a 3-foot buffer lane and a 5-foot bike lane. Striped medium, except in the truck passing areas. Slope flattening, deceleration, acceleration lanes at Waterline Road intersections, drainage improvements, and pavement rehabilitation. The notice to proceed was issued last January, and the early construction activities was the tortoise fence and earthwork. And it will be starting in the next few weeks on the main line.
What's the total time on this?
180 days, so about 6 months. And then moving on, this is just really more for awareness. Looking for property protection. We are having a great deal of trouble with copper wire theft. You'll see that that first picture is actually, it's dead looking at it, but it's a sign structure where we have people going in and pulling out the copper wiring underneath, and also a lot of property damage. We just want to make it clear that some of the cameras we're putting up are strictly for looking at the protecting the property there. It's not for surveillance for anything else other than property protection. Any questions on that? I just wanted to make sure that it was upfront and everybody is aware of that.
Is this a new development, this kind of stuff?
No, it's actually been going on for decades, literally. It goes through different series. We think sometimes we found a way to temper it. It used to be that there was direct wire. When we put the the wiring right in the ground, it was harder to pull. Then it was back to conduit. Then we had stronger boxes, and then they were broken into. So it's like every time we get smarter, they get smarter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Governor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Director Larkin, I'm just reading what it says here on the director's report. Is a law enforcement agency monitoring these cameras then? Or just
No, we are actually looking. We did have our legal department look at it, Lori Story, and it was actually the fourth item on the fourth one down there, protection of people or persons in the right of way.
But my question is a law enforcement agency monitoring, seeing who's looking at the at what the cameras are showing? Who's watching it?
Some of it's recorded and it would come back to the district. And then the other part would be.
So you don't have any real-time ability to go out there and stop someone from vandalizing? Is that weird?
Really, realistically. We've become more aware of it. There's some intermittent monitoring of it, but no, we don't have someone to watch it on a regular basis.
So we can respond and have evidence once we become aware.
Because it's more evidence and response.
Right.
Than just being, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next one, because of all the storms and the activity around the states, is I'm really kind of highlighting for the rest of my report just what's happening on the storm impacts. So this first one is what's been going on in northern Nevada. I certainly want to give a shout out to all the crews, the maintenance crews, and all the support crews, the equipment shops, and everyone else out there. As you can see, we've had a lot of ice storms. You can see the spin out on I-80 there on the bottom. You see the whiteout conditions coming through Washoe Valley and there on the Tahoe up there. A couple of smiling faces. I think they just smile when they get tired. It just makes it easier for them. If you go into the next one, we're going to continue on in northern Nevada, but you'll also see the sprung structure on Kingsbury Grade has collapsed. And then also along the US 95, it's actually frozen as we're moving into some of the flooding parts of it. You'll see that it's pushing the snow, debris, and ice across 395 coming over the highway that's between Reno and Carson. You'll see a lot of areas where, because it has skidded, it has broken barrier rails, so in between storms, they were out there trying to fix those type of repairs over there. And I did want to give a shout out. You'll notice up on the upper right-hand corner, Lieutenant Governor stopped by to talk to the maintenance workers and take a little ride in the snowplow. He said it was a little bit more difficult than he thought it was. Then as we move on.
Life is difficult for him. Did he hear me?
No, I didn't hear you, Chairman.
Carry on.
Well, while we're on the subject, I did want to give another shout out. Those folks that drive those snow plows and blowers are absolutely amazing, and we need more of them because this has been a pretty rough winter. But they do an outstanding job keeping those roads cleared, and it was great spending a couple hours doing a ride along with them.
Thank you. Then also I wanted to, as we move on to the next one, we're going to see also the effects continue on in District 1. So this is also, we were closed at Prim, and this is also District 3, so District 1 and District 3. And you can't see in that upper right-hand corner, that's drifting snow over the highway. What you're actually seeing is only half of the highway. You're not seeing both lanes. So there's that much drifting snow that's been coming across, which creates a real problem. One, in visibility, and also it's light and fluffy and it's hard to clear off. So really this has been all around the state, and basically in Ely and Elko they've seen like 250% of normal snowfall. I mean, well above. I mean, while we do need the water, it's one of those things that's a blessing for the water, but then we also look forward to increased foliage, which means increased burn season. So it's always one thing of the silver lining, and then we're like Eeyore. Now rock slides, also the saturated soil and the freeze-thaw cycles have been there. That is on US 95 between Hawthorne and Schurz. And you can see the truck in the back to get an idea of just the size of the rocks that came down. It was managed to get it cleared in 2.5 days with an emergency contract using SNC. The only reason it really wasn't done in a day and a half was because we needed to have a geotech go out and check the adjoining rock areas because of fissures that were appearing to make sure that they were stable enough to move forward. The other picture there is on 208. It is another rock slide in Smith Valley, and that is beyond where we're already doing that $7 million emergency repair along Wilson Canyon. So those are well into motions we've done. You'll see later in that's item 23, but we've had a lot of emergency contracts. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, the $7 million project you alluded to, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
That is the one that has, we showed a picture of it last meeting, and it is the one along Wilson Canyon. It is, Cole, you know this familiar. How long is it?
Lengthwise, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that we were estimating more than 12,000 cubic yards of debris that we had to remove.
And if you go through, if you're familiar with Wilson Canyon, you have a very high, steep cliff on one side, you have the roadway, and then it goes right into the river. So you have the Walker River that moves along on the other side. So when the rock came down, it completely obliterated the roadway and also impacted the stream going through. So the $7 million is we've been doing pilot operations, single way to keep it. It's a road that goes from 395 in Douglas County over to Urington.
And how old is this picture? You know?
That picture is a new area that would be just about a week old. It's a different location.
Okay.
These pictures are actually fairly fresh.
So there's nothing within the last 2 days?
The last 2 days, no.
Because we've had increase. The reason why I'm
This-
asking
this
is an
happened
increase
last-
in hearing too.
Yes, this has happened in the last week. The previous one was a few weeks old, it was back in February.
Okay.
And then moving on to recent flooding events. And one of the reasons here is showing, this is again all throughout the state, it's Washoe Valley, Sweetwater, and then also Smith Valley, but we'll show a few over in District 3. But it's showing what it's doing to the undercutting of the roadways. So while we're not having like really one major catastrophe, we're having all these minor catastrophes everywhere. And it's really spreading the crews very thin, getting out there, making sure they're marked properly, intermittent closing as necessary, emergency repairs enough to at least make the roads passable. And in many cases, there's still standing water in a lot of places. And as pursuant, to your declaration, we have been monitoring each area, keeping track of the work that we've been putting in each area. So this is the flooding in the Ely sub-district, and you can see that the water is flowing over the roadway, pretty actively flowing. And one of the things to remember is it doesn't take a lot of water to move a very large vehicle. And I've seen very large pieces of equipment start to move even though you think they'd be heavier to make it across the roadway. And then just a thing on the resources, this is just showing some of the weather risk outlooks that we receive on a daily basis looking ahead, and also the river forecasts. So the river forecast, we'll look at the bottom, just kind of show as a certain river goes when it's expected to peak and when it will actually hit high water zone and when it hits flood zone. So that helps us prepare ahead of time. We also had, like in many different areas, we put excavators by bridges to make sure that as the rivers get swollen, that we can pull out debris before it impacts the underlying structure to the bridge. And also make sure that there's sandbags and stuff in certain areas, just to help mitigate any impacts. These, we've been starting to share these a lot too with a lot of your staff.
So, Tracy, I understand that we made a request of Clark County to assist with resources. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that happening?
I will, I'll check with Mario, but I have no doubt it is. There's
So
a
is
close
that a-
relationship between all the districts and the areas they're in.
So when we take on county resources, is that a reimbursement mechanism for them or for us?
I do not know the answer to that.
Can you supply the answer?
I can't supply it.
Cole, do you know?
I don't know one.
Generally, it is a reimbursement of some type. It might be through emergency funds, so it might not be through us, but it could be through the
State?
by the state.
Okay.
And this last one, it was, as I was going to the airport yesterday, I stopped to talk to a crew on I-80, because literally, I'm pointing this out because the sun came out, they pulled, that is actually what's left of 7 crews out there in an assembly line repairing the guardrail on I-80 that had been knocked over the day before. And the reason they were all doing it yesterday, literally they said the sun came out, we're expecting more storms and we're not going to be able to get out for another week. So I just want to emphasize just the dedication of these guys, these crews, these girls, gals, and guys, just the public safety, that they're out there and they're doing it when they can. And then this last part, farewell. So, farewell.
Really even?
Cole, not yet. I'm not sure if you said that, but
I was joking.
just checking. So Cole Mortensen is moving on to another opportunity, and we want to recognize him for 20 years, actually over 20 years of service to NDOT. He's a 5th generation Nevadan, raised in Fernley. He's got a family background in farming. He's an active outdoor enthusiast and conservationist, but also want to say he's a pretty good hunter too. I see some of the pictures of his dad. But one of the things I'd also like to point out, we're going to talk next meeting a little bit about some of the work we do to get people in our pipeline. And Cole, as a result, he came in as a summer intern student intern, and then came into as a public service intern for almost 3 years before actually fully starting in the department. So Cole, would you like to say anything?
It's, I guess, it's been an absolute pleasure working for the department, and, you know, it's been a tough decision for me and my family, and I feel like I'm leaving part of my family here as I move on to the next chapter of my life, but I really appreciate everything that the state and the department's done. So thank you.
It's actually Cole, I think, if you could come up.
Come up here, Cole. So I don't know if the mic can hear me, but we have a certificate here for Cole from the State of Nevada Officer Joe Lombardo, certificate of recognition presented to Cole Mortensen, Executive Deputy Director. And I won't repeat the narrative and embarrass you, but Tracy hit on the highlights of it. But on behalf of the State of Nevada, we truly appreciate your service and everything you've done for the State of Nevada, and for me personally. So here, thank you. Tracy, get up here.
Really short. You guys can tell.
All right. Give me a hand again. There we go.
Well, thank you.
All right. Congratulations. So does any other board member want to make a comment about Cole?
Virginia Valentine for the record, and I have to say I really enjoyed working with Cole. He's always very fair and experienced, and I'm glad that you could be here with us in Southern Nevada on this day. Thank you.
Stavros?
Oh, I'm sorry, Governor, this is Board Member Squag. I do just want to add also just my appreciation for Cole, and through the years, we go quite a ways back being up north here, but really want to say thank you, and I'm sorry I do see all the flyers around here for quite a shindig party hosted somewhere on NDOT campus, so I might have to make it back for that one. But no, just wanted a personal thank you to Cole.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's the least I heard him say.
It doesn't look like my mic is working, so I'll try to talk louder. That concludes the director's report.
We'll get her though, like, so we can make sure we do it before. All right, Cole, I'll just repeat it. Thank you very much. You were very instrumental in me in getting my feet on the ground day one, and I appreciate it, everything you've done for the state. So, and good luck to you. All right.
Oh, and that shindig is Thursday at 4 p.m. in the third floor conference room.
Be careful when you say that publicly.
Well, we have a gateway to get in. That does conclude the director's report.
All right, thank you. So that's informational item only, so we'll move on to item number 5, consideration for approval of the February 13, 2023 Nevada Department of Transportation Board of Directors meeting minutes for possible action. I have a motion.
Governor, I move for the approval of the February 13th Board of Directors meeting minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to section 2, the consent agenda. Items 6 through 24. I intend to take those items as one item, unless any board member wants to remove an item for separate discussion. Any removals?
Governor, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items number 6 through 24.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will skip section 3 as we didn't take any from the consent agenda. Moving on to section 4, additional business items.
We do not have any additional business items at this time.
Okay. And moving on to item number 26, public comment. Period devoted to comments by the general public about matters relevant to the board's jurisdiction will be held. No vote may be taken on a matter listed on the posted agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any to the north?
Yes, sir, Governor. We have 3 signed up for public comment.
Please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Elizabeth Learnhardt. I'm talking about the NDOT Highway 50 East Shore CMP plan. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Controller, Directors, and Trustees. This winter weather, as we saw in the previous pictures, is reinforcing my message about Highway 50. It has become self-evident how important this route is. When all other highways and Interstate 80 were closed last month, Highway 50 was the first to open. This happens every year, several times. Because of the lower elevation of Echo Summit, it happens regularly. There are 7 roads into the Tahoe Basin. Only one has 4 lanes. If anybody of you wants to experience how a 2-lane Highway 50 functions, please come and visit us in Lake Tahoe, because that's what we're experiencing right now. But that is just the beginning of the troubles. As we and as myself experienced in 3-1, one jackknife truck up Clear Creek blocked U-50 for 3 hours. Only after the 2 opposing lanes were cleared of traffic, the snowplow, tow truck, and other rescue equipment could make it up to the place of the accident. Why don't we have chain controls to prevent this? Why is NDOT even considering this lane reduction? Is it really their job to modify the behavior of the citizens? And what are the objectives and metrics they plan to achieve by doing so? Why is a 4-lane traffic bad in Tahoe, but in Dayton, U50 is being widened to 4 lanes because of high demand? According to the Tahoe Transportation District, NDOT has developed several plans on how safely reconfigured Highway 50. Why are we not informed of these alternative plans? We were told that TARPA is mandating no new asphalt be laid between Spooner Summit and Round Hill. After studying their compact, there is no such requirement. This mandate seems rather arbitrarily. It follows a pattern of extortion. TARPA gets its agenda passed for their approval of necessary constructions and updates. Additionally, we were asked, what is this the residents want from Highway 50? Having witnessed 4 of these outreach events being framed in such a way, I believe this is the wrong question, and it raises unrealistic expectations. The question to ask is, what do we locals need? In the event of fire, inclement weather, accidents, medical emergency, rock slides, and many other unforeseen emergency, we need 4 lanes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Learnhardt.
Hi, my name is Janine Nyer. I live up in Zephyr Cove in Douglas County. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I'm here today to bring your attention to an issue of critical importance, the NDOT CMP for Highway 50 along the east shore of Tahoe. In spite of public comment sessions in which many comments were submitted to NDOT, identifying critical concerns that would need to be addressed in any road reconfiguration, the latest plan available to view contains the following features which we believe are unworkable in the environment at the lake: lane reductions, lane width reduction, and a bike trail adjacent to the road. The current situation with snow removal complications, as well as our recent experience with evacuations, must be considered before a final plan is agreed to. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I call you back? Ms. Nyer?
Yes, sir.
Could you spell your last name, please, for the record?
N is in November, Y-R-E.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Phillip Schloss. That's spelled S-C-H-L-O-S-S. Thank you, Governor, and the board members for allowing me the time to speak. And basically, it's more follow-on to what Elizabeth Learnhardt had said about taking away lanes from Highway 50 on the east shore of Lake Tahoe. To me, the main reason, and I don't know why they're further studying taking away lanes, is fire safety, fire evacuation safety. We don't know when that's going to happen, as Cal Doris said, and even in Paradise, when they had a roadhouse, I'm saying when they reduce lanes, the same disaster that happened to them could happen to us. So yes, we're concerned, and I'm concerned as a resident, as I know all residents are. And as this snow season just showed, the heavy dump, we don't know when we're going to get them. They just show, like in other words, the fire Caldor. And the real hazard of that is in the event of one lane, well, a lot of lanes up there this year that I experienced is a lot of lanes were reduced to maybe a half lane. And so I hope you all can imagine where you have two lanes and then you have one of those lanes reduced to a half lane. Well, you have to hope that the other lane is not full, or you've got to move over, and then you got to wonder, well, is that car going to move over the center divider? And is there going to be oncoming traffic to that car where you're going to have head-on collision, or can you slow down? And the other thing at night, these things just all of a sudden, I only got a half lane to work with. Where am I going to go? So that's something that you have to do. And the other thing, that motion I wanted to spell is what Elizabeth Learnhardt brought up, and that has to do with the TARPA project. What they've been charged with is not to widen roads on account of, to accommodate more traffic. They're not, that's what they're charged with not doing. Instead, they're supposed to use transportation to do that. But here we're talking about traffic safety. We're talking about widening of the lanes. We're talking about widening medians so we don't have these head-on collisions. So that's reduced. And even in some cases, I understand to reduce the speeds there, you need to repost the signs, so it takes legislative action to do that. So what I'm saying is that that you could take on TARPA and say, no, there's nothing that says you can't widen the lanes, to put in center lanes to accommodate them, and medians, and put pavement over there like they did at Round Hill. And I understand a lot of people are upset at all the at the dirt they moved to do that. So the other thing, Governor, I think maybe that would be helpful, which I did today, is talk to Congressman Amadei, because I think TARPA, their authority over Highway 50, because of the road diet situation, I believe the permit that they want to hand out makes that as a condition. You may want to talk to him about reining in their authority over Highway 50. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Schloss.
We have one more, Governor.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. My name is Dana Inglekirk, Englekirk. I'm Vice President of the Skyland GID up at the lake. And I'm here to echo also what Elizabeth and Phillip and the previous commenters have said. We appreciate you taking time to consider their points of view. There are unforeseen things like this winter, and we would really appreciate having your attention to safety first. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's it for us. Thank you.
So we have one in Southern Nevada.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chad Dornsife. I represent the National Motors Association. I'm an expert in the Highway Safety Act of 1966, the MUTCD, the UBC. I used to own a small construction company that specialized in highway bridge decks and retrofitting for seismic events. Simultaneous with that, we also owned Police Product News, Emergency Equipment Engineering, so I'm an expert on police radar and enforcement practices. But when it comes to Nevada, I've been watching your data on accidents and speed since the 80s. In fact, I was working with the people with federal highways at the Turner Fairbank group, where we had independent monitoring stations from the state highway reporting. And what's been going on is this whole new thing on Vision Zero and safe systems is an effort to defund engineering. It's to go back to invented speed limits, photo enforcement, red light cameras. That's the focus of what they're doing. But what's happened is that they've actually purged all the national data that has anything contrary to what their effort is. And what's worse, to me, is Nevada hasn't been in compliance with the law since 1985. I put a BDR in 1995 when the national speed limit changed. It went through the Senate, went through the Assembly, and after the language was compliant with federal law, the last 3 days of the legislature, after it already passed the Assembly, a person from the NHP and somebody else got in there and changed the language completely, creating your current enforcement standard. It violates the Fourth Amendment, it violates equal protection, and none of your speed limits have been passed in compliance with state and federal laws. A speed limit sign is a federal device that has statutory requirements for the look, shape, design, but it also has statutory requirements to determine the value posted. And Nevada has not been doing that. I started this because I started off with Highway 50. And back when I was doing all these studies, I would actually go out and investigate accidents. So, in the way that the NHP reported the accidents, if there was an infrastructure problem at the scene, it was never part of the accident report. Like on the Highway 50 situation, when they built, Park Cattle Company got the permit to build the casino expansion, part of the permit was to build either an overpass or underpass for pedestrians. It didn't happen, but the pedestrian fatalities continue to happen in that corridor because there's no facility to get the pedestrians around the traffic. The same thing happened at the bottom of Spooner and 395. You designed a death trap there. People have been killed, more are going to be injured, because the prior safety system that was there has been removed. So a truck coming down that hill with hot brakes goes past the runaway zone. They get down to the intersection and the prior sweeper that went south on 395 was removed. So if a trucker thinks he can make it and he's not going to do the runaway, when he gets to the bottom, he's got no choice but to hit the traffic full on and push them into the intersection. We've had fatalities, injuries. We had a tour bus do that. We had a guy towing a boat do that. And it's going to happen again. What I'm saying is when you do an accident
Mr.
report,
Goldsmith, your time is up. Just if you can conclude your comments.
everything I've said, I've got documentation and can be proven. And if anybody has any questions on any of it.
Do you have the ability to provide us the documents?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment?
I just want to note that we did receive one more public comment after the deadline on Friday, so it will be included in the minutes for the next meeting. I don't have a copy of it.
Okay. All right, this closes item number 26. Item number 27, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And who was that?
Virginia Valentine.
Thank you, Virginia. This will conclude the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.